created everything. Look what a powerful being you are. You did these things, but now you're in a human body, you forget the power you have.
What you do is what the whole universe is doing at the place you call here and now. You are something the whole universe is doing in the same way that a wave is something that the whole ocean is doing.
You're doing it.
Doing what?
Using your imagination.
Welcome to Meta Mysteries, Meta Mystics.
Holy shit.
Wow, blast from the past. No, I'm kidding. Where you don't know what you don't know. My name's Jonathan.
I'm Sean.
And tonight we have a very special guest, somebody who I brought up just last week in the live show, and very, very curious about your life and everything that led you up to a couple of wild things that you were able to experience. So welcome to the show for the first time, TaylorDoretti. What's up, dude?
Thank you, Jonathan. Sean, pleasure to be here. Hello to everybody. And, we got another Taylor here, it looks like. So,
yeah, they're the best, I think.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, dude. Well, so I know that this is obviously this is your first time on the show. So honestly, we would really just like to hear a little bit about how you got started. What kind of led you down this path? I mean, did it start at an early age? Was it kind of one of those things where you were an NPC for most of your life and then eventually you just woke up? Because that's how it was for us.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. So, I think for me, I was raised in a very conservative Christian family. I was always really into church and God and religion growing up. I wanted to be a pastor. I was a missionary for a couple different points in time in my middle school, high school age, and so I always just had that like deep reverence and connection and desire to know God and to know the sacred and to really understand that relationship between, man and the divine. And, I won preaching competitions when I was in elementary school. Like it was quite a organic process, you could say. And for me, what kind of tipped the scales was I started asking a lot of questions. And when I was about, 16, 17, I started noticing inconsistencies with, pastoral and doctrine and things that, the church that I was attending was saying. And it didn't really align up with what I perceived to be either true or real in the world. And then, so I kind of like moved away from church and organized religion. It's the classic sex, drugs, and rock and roll type story, and then really what kind of created that permanent glitch in the matrix, you could say, was I took mushrooms when I was 18 by myself on the hill. And
wow. That'll do it.
Yep. And I wish I could say it was like, something like cooler or whatever, but it was really just having that contact with that plant ally, with that spirit, with that intelligence. And so that first psychedelic experience for me, it opened the door to what I perceived to be divine intelligence. Mm-hmm. And very specifically, there was a communication that was established at that point. And, it wasn't really a wompy, wild trip. It was like, I literally just felt this presence. And so I sat down on this hill and I just began to meditate and to look into the sky. And any question I had immediately started being answered, like right off the bat. And it was just like every question I had about life, about civilization, about people, ego, all these things. And it was just this like instant gnosis of communication. Mm-hmm. And so, hours later, I kind of moved from this spot, and I went home, and I started to look to understand and to integrate that experience, because it was beyond anything that I had read about. I didn't even really know much about psychedelics or plant medicine. I had not really looked into other religions or traditions. And so that experience put me on that path of seeking truth.
Wow.
And as a result of that, I firmly believe that when we have an intention to know truth and to know God from a real intimate place in our heart and our being, life begins to organize around that. And we ultimately start having a series of experiences that that just begins to expand our awareness as a whole.
You know what's beautiful about that too is that, people that kind of awaken to their just being more through the use of any kind of psychedelic.
Yeah,
Because if you think about it, what the psychedelic does is that it completely eliminates the default mode network. Like that's
exactly.
gone. Like there is no more filter anymore. And so it's not that you're being deceived. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
I've often said that I believe that the deceiving is just your normal waking reality. You
Hmm.
don't have, you don't have the senses to be able to perceive certain things. You have the default mode network. You have certain things like, first of all, like we see time as linear. We see it as
Right.
continuous. We see yesterday as yesterday, tomorrow as tomorrow, but then you find out, oh man, that's just the way the human brain is set up. And that's not
Right.
even the
Yeah.
real nature of reality. So whenever you do a psychedelic or a meditation or what have you, it's like, and it gets away from that, man, it really opens it up. There's no going back. You can't just like forget that you had an experience. And I feel like most people that do, because there are certain people that revert back to older kind of belief systems and stuff like that. But I feel like most of the time that happens, it's more of like a fear-based thing. What do you think about that?
Well, you touched on a couple interesting points, and I think it's important to kind of go a little bit in order there. So the first point is, yeah, there is, this body that we have. It has its own evolutionary desire for self-preservation, just like any other body that we find in nature. There is this self-preserving mode that all of nature has. And that is what some teachers describe as the sleeping state, where the body is actually in charge of the experience. And this is where you start seeing the, the far extreme of it, where, it's the chemicals in the mind or in the brain that begin to be released, and we have cravings and all these things. And so what these different practices and traditions do is begin to slowly dislodge one's awareness from the entanglement within the body mind.
Mm.
Okay, so that's one thing. The second is that when you have the use of an entheogen, whether it's, it could be mushrooms, peyote, cannabis, even alcohol, to a degree, like different medicinal alcohols and wines that we find throughout history. There's something where it's like it's not a slow dilation of awareness. It's like a boom, you're there, right? And that creates this opening in the awareness for more consciousness to be uh, felt or experienced. And that fracture, you could say, and it creates a small opening in the psyche. And the psyche, we have to understand, is a composition of our lived experiences, our social, cultural conditionings, our religious interpretations. The psyche is basically the filter that we view the world through, and when you have a peak experience, like from plant medicine, it begins to create a small crack in the psyche. And then we actually begin to see the waking world that is already there, but our state of awareness
Mhm.
filters and blocks a lot of that out,
A
And
hundred
so
percent.
that's the second point, is that many people who go down a mystical, magical plant path, they have a peak experience, that window is open, but they don't know how to integrate that, nor do they have the lifestyle, the environment, or the practices that really help make that a new foundational operating system for your conscious awareness. And then the next part, which is where you said people retrograde into other belief systems back to where they were, I find, and maybe you guys have seen this, I have seen a trend over the past 5 years where people, and especially in individuals on social media, where they go super hard into the new age, right? And then all of a sudden they become born again Christians.
Yes, a lot.
Okay. And, and I think that's a deep rooted psychological fear and tendency to be like, this is evil, it's wrong, I need to be saved. Like there's this whole deeply rooted operating system that religion conditions you to believe. And so when people retrograde into prior belief systems, it's because there was no fundamental way to integrate this newfound awareness that they have into their daily life of waking consciousness.
Dude.
So that, I think, is the most important thing to recognize, is that integration is talked about as a fundamental, you have to have it whenever you do plant medicine. But the reality is that integration is required for any sort of spiritual practice.
And it seems to require you, like, if you're really trying to integrate whatever you experienced, whatever otherworldly, other, kind of experience that is unexplainable, it seems that you have to try and integrate it just about every day. Otherwise, it's very fleeting. And
Right.
you almost don't even trust your perception of your experience if you just let it go. It's like a use it or lose it kind of situation. And I love that you were talking about how it kind of is like a little crack, like a little pinhole, dare I say, that you kind of get a little glimpse of the other side, or not even just of the other side, but what all entails you whenever you're not constricted to this meat suit, right? And what's interesting is that recently we just had a gentleman on, and he was talking about like the people that use the mindfold and they're able to see without their eyes.
Remote viewing.
Yeah, basically remote viewing. And this guy, his name was Jamie Starwalker. Holy shit. I mean, and that's what he was saying, that whenever you're learning how to do that, you have to focus on the tiny little pinhole of light whenever you can't see anything. And it's very symbolic of even what you're talking about right now.
Yeah, there's more I could say with that specific topic, but you're learning to actually, your awareness, most people experienced their entire life through one wavelength of awareness, one wavelength of attention. And so the mystic, just like the shaman, just like the sorcerer, the healer, the witch, the priest, the priestess, at the fundamental, if you strip all the dogma and all the ritual, there is the ability to manipulate your attention and to shift your awareness into a different frequency, into a different level of consciousness, a different level of energy. And so that is the fundamental piece, is that outside of all the ritual, all the dogma, all the practices, you need to be able to have a very strong attention so that you can actually understand or realize the cause effect of when I have an intention to do this, what happens? When I do this, what happens? And your awareness is how you perceive the world. And most people, their perception stays in this static filter that is the composition of their conditioning, the impressions they've received in the world, their local environment and stimuli, and all the information that they expose themselves to at the end of the day.
Yeah, I feel like there's a common like fear mongering too. And I especially noticed that, so I have another podcast. It's a conspiracy podcast, and it was like my first podcast that I ever created, right? And one thing that I noticed is that, and I only just came recently to this conclusion, that most conspiracies are kind of perceived through the religious lens, to where you're only looking for the bad guy through that lens. And I'm like, there's so much more going on. Like, you gotta take off those blinders a little bit. Otherwise, you're only going to be able to see a tiny little portion of it. You know, if you don't know symbolism, if you don't know gematria, if you don't know numerology, you know what I mean? Like, if you don't know what the planets are doing in the sky, you're not going to understand the certain rituals that they're putting on stage, and, you know, just stuff like that. But all of that is evil. So you're not allowed to talk about it, you know, it's you know, through like a Christian lens. And, you know, I always found that very frustrating. But, you know, and I don't know, I guess it's up to everybody, you know, what to perceive of the world. It's everybody's own personal experience anyway. But, yeah, dude, it's so weird how there can be so many different experiences, you know, like how I talk about, like, so I was a witness at a car accident one time, right? Like, there was somebody that pulled out there was a car that like ran a red light, the car that was directly in front of me, and she got smashed by the actual, you know, the other car on the highway that actually did have the green light. And anyway, it was a little old lady. I stayed to help her out and, you know, try and get her out of the car and call an ambulance and stuff like that. And there was also like two or three other cars that stayed behind to help, because they saw that this was an elderly lady. You know, you wanted to be able to help. And every single one of us told a different story to the police officer as to what happened. We all saw the same thing. So it's a weird thing how, you know, perception in general changes almost based upon your mood even.
Yeah, your perception is the layers of filters that you experience the world in. And this is why, for anybody who is traveling down a mystical or spiritual path, is to train their attention to be centered. And this is why at every single lineage, meditation is the core practice, because it's all about stilling the mind, because the mind is the filters that the perception is based on.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
so
the mind will go if you let it, you know, it'll just spiral out real quick.
It will run wild.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting how, you know, you said as far as people going back to Christianity and because of the fear of, you know, maybe they're going to go to hell because they're doing all of this occult stuff or whatever. And coming from me, like I was never in any religion, so I find it very fascinating that even not being in a religion, I feel like it's set up so well the way that it's designed. Even myself I've even thought of that, like as far as like whenever I've had some sort of mystical experience and maybe I see like a shadow or maybe, you know, whatever the case is, and I start to think about it and I'll dwell on it. And then in my mind, I'm like, wait a minute, hold on, maybe they've got it right, you know, and then I start even thinking of it, and I wasn't even brought up that way. So I think it's very interesting how powerful those stories are.
What's interesting about that is that whatever tradition you come from and all the texts you read, the mythology, whatever it is, that is creating subconscious impressions, right? And that is creating a potential world that you can experience externally. And when you begin to travel down any path, religion, spiritual, esoteric, whatever, you will start to have these experiences, and then you will see them through the lens of that narrative, that story. It's like, you know, you have Christians who reach their, you know, mystical Christianity is actually a very legitimate path. If you look back to, like, you know, 4th, 5th, 6th century mystical Christianity, the Essenes, like you start looking into all their different traditions, very different than what modern Christianity is today.
Oh, dude,
And
even Rosicrucianism, we just covered that not too long ago. I find that fascinating.
It's very fascinating. And so, you know, there's I've actually just got a book by this one Christian mystic. It was a woman in France. She was canonized. She died when she was like 26, but she is a very well respected Christian mystic. And what she's talking about in her work can literally be paralleled to Eastern traditions, and they're just using different language, different symbolism to almost describe nearly the exact same thing, which is what happens to the spirit and the being once you get closer to God, once you get closer to the sacred. And I wanted to bring up, it's like there's a common thing where, are you guys familiar with what is the stigmata, with that experience, that mystical experience, the stigmata?
I don't think so.
I think I
So,
saw the movie way back.
okay, so the stigmata is when Christians will have images of the holes in their hands bleeding from crucifixion, okay? And
Whoa.
okay, and so it's because they induce themselves into a trance or a mystical state through prayer and chanting or incense and song. Their awareness goes into a heightened state of awareness, and then they will begin to have these mystical experiences of the divine that manifest as Christian symbolism or iconography. And that is partially because the energy and frequency that they are beginning to attune themselves to is what is the actual energetic state of awareness behind those famous iconography, or famous experiences, and then they will see it manifest on themselves, right? And
Wow.
so for me personally, when I was I was working with a teacher who came from Maria Sabina's mushroom lineage, and there was several points in these ceremonies at different, we probably did about 15, 18 ceremonies in total with them. And about four of these ceremonies, the shaman had the stigmata because manifest, and multiple people saw it. And it's not because the shaman was a Christian, but because that dimension, that energetic field that we were traversing through with the mushroom was the same dimensional wavelength and same state of consciousness that the stigmata manifests through in Christians. And so there's a lot of similarities between mystical Christianity and other, esoteric traditions as well.
Dude, that is wild. And I will say that, I wasn't raised Christian either. I think I went to church for like a year out of my life just out of curiosity. But just in my couple of, Christian or Jesus type of experiences, I feel like somebody would have an experience like that and they'd be like, "Oh my God." So there was one time I did a lot of mushrooms and fucking Elohim came over, like I felt like I was
Yeah.
somehow channeling or receiving some kind of message from the Elohim. Didn't even know what the Elohim was, right?
Yeah.
And then just last week we did a meditation and I feel like I don't know, I feel like I met Jesus in this meditation, which was really strange. And I was thinking, man, like it can't all be bullshit. You know what I mean? Like if it's all bullshit, then I feel like I probably wouldn't be experiencing it. So, but I don't want to say that it's the absolute truth either, because surely there's a lot of people that, that maybe somebody sees Muhammad, say maybe somebody sees Buddha,
Sure.
maybe somebody sees Sri Yukteswar or something like that, right? Like everybody has had their own experiences. So kind of what you're saying is it actually makes a little bit of sense personally, because I'm,
Yeah.
my co-host on my other podcast, very Christian. So maybe I'm kind of
Yep.
just soaking up that energy a bit.
Yeah, it's very possible, like everything. We need to remember that what we perceive to, like, what we know that the astral plane is, right? This liminal, this dimension that is a non-physical reality is made up of the mind, or it can be influenced by the mind, the emotions, the subconscious, all these things. And so even the imagination is a astral experience. And so this is where self-study and self-exploration is very important, and not to always take all of your experiences as fact, because you can, the way that they train remote viewers is to basically through imagination initially, and then there starts to be more more of a concrete objectivity to it. And so that is part of the meditation and the mind training, is learning to go from subjective to objective. And depending on someone's, profile, their sensitivity, what comes natural to them, maybe it's a very empathic experience. Maybe it comes through intuition or gnosis, or maybe they have a very clear astral vision and they can actually see those things. These are all metasensory evolutions of the human physical senses.
Dude, you said
Wow.
cure imagination. I've never heard somebody say that before. That is awesome. And it just
What was it?
reminds me, like, you said cure imagination, or am I tripping?
I don't know. Maybe I said pure imagination, but essentially, it's like imagination is an astral experience, because you are using the mental plane and you're using the mental vision to create an experience. So if the astral is non-physical reality, then that means that the emotions, the mind, and the imagination all have an influence onto the astral plane. And
Wow.
and the astral plane is both a subjective and objective place.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it seems like that. Because it's crazy how people can just, I mean, me and Sean have tripped together on psychedelics, and we don't necessarily see the same exact thing. It's almost,
And
it's,
sometimes you do.
and sometimes you do. Yeah, yeah, it's so
Yeah.
strange. Like, we'll go out and look up at the stars at night, as we're tripping, and we're like,
Yeah.
I'm like, does it seem like there's paparazzi up there? Like, there's just a bunch of flashing, lights, and he's like, dude,
They're onto you.
I was thinking the same thing, and I was like,
They're onto
all
us.
right, yeah,
That's
Yeah.
the one thing that I know for a fact we're seeing the same thing for sure.
Yeah.
yeah,
Which is
dude.
really interesting, because we could both have our own experiences, and I'm seeing this, and I've had experiences where I feel like I'm catching these subtleties of like the primary colors for whatever reason. I'm seeing red, green, and blue, and it's very hard to explain, but I'm sure you understand that. But Jonathan's not seeing that, but then we both look at the sky and it's like, oh, we can agree that we're seeing the same thing, just as far as how we are describing it, and so
Yeah.
that leads me to believe that whatever is happening in the sky, when we look at it, is probably always happening. It's just our ability to perceive it is kind of dulled down until we get to that state of mind.
So does
Your
that
mind
does-
your mind filters things.
Right.
It filters it consciously and unconsciously.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So what do you think about objective and subjective truths then at that point? Like, I imagine, we're living this physical life, but we know that it's limited. We're only going to live, a very limited time in the span of eternity, right?
Yeah.
But I would think there would have to be some sort of objective reality. And like, what have you experienced as far as this to be 100% true? What do you think that is?
The only
question.
thing that I can with 100% conviction say to be true is that objective reality is what is generating the subjective experience.
Right.
Damn.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is where meditation becomes so crucial, because when you can stop your thoughts, when you can stop your mind, your experience of the world slows down and then stops. This is where we start getting into the realms of samadhi. And samadhi is where the mind, the nervous system, the emotions, all these things have become they're going from separate systems down to one unified awareness. And when you start to go into this state of awareness, the world begins to turn off. And when the world turns off, well, what's there? Right? And this is what they call the self. This is where you start having infinity generated from eternity. And so this is where, if I was a Taoist, I would say, well, the Tao is the only truth, right? And
Right.
if I was, a Buddhist, I would say, well, the subjective truth is that there's 10,000 states of mind, and that only the Dharmakaya, the clear light of reality, is the objective truth.
Mhm.
So this is, again, where you're coming from is what dictates your experience of truth. And I am not confident enough to say, what the absolute truth is, because if I were to project the truth and if I were to say this is the truth and you haven't experienced the truth, then it's not truth. The
Mhm.
only thing that is truth is what you know to be, you know, true beyond a reasonable doubt, either first from what you've experienced and then when you move beyond experience. And so truth lies beyond experience.
Right. Because
So
anytime you experience something, you're inevitably doing it subjectively, no matter what you do.
there's a subjective element at play, and
Mhm.
so um, you come to know truth through the path of meditation, because
Mhm.
meditation is objective. And for me, real meditation is when you stop thought, is when you're no longer generating a narrative. To
Mhm.
me, and this is there's no offense or criticism here, but I've seen in the new age that it's really popular to have guided meditations and all these things, right? You guys were talking about it earlier.
Yep.
To me, that's not meditation, because the mind, you're doing a visualization exercise. You're doing an astral exercise, right?
Mhm.
You can call it a guided visualization, a practice, whatever it might be, a voyage, like a
Imagination practice,
whatever it
whatever you
is.
want. Yeah.
Yeah. And so for me, real meditation is when you focus the mind, when you stop thought, and when you go beyond that sensory input.
Getting to the
Yeah, that's great.
nothing.
The
Yeah.
nothing box, dude.
Exactly.
That's where the magic is. I mean,
Yeah.
and not to say, like you said, there's nothing against doing any of the other meditations, because there are times when you might have an intrusive thought, let's say, and you decide to go ahead and see where that takes you, and then it takes you somewhere that you didn't think it was going to take you. Maybe it's to the subconscious mind, something that is kind of has been there, and you haven't really analyzed it, and you can do that. That's all well and
Yeah.
fine. But as far as what you're talking about, true
Yeah.
meditation is going to that nothing box and really letting go of the ego and everything else completely, because then that's where objective truth is.
And what happens is that there's actual mystical phenomena that begins to occur.
Mm.
Okay. And this is some people talk about this and they think it's absolute, but in reality they're just starting to dip their toe into it. And so what happens is when you meditate, when you slow your thought, when you stop thought, you actually begin to experience more light. Okay.
Mhm.
And this is where the open-eyed meditation practices from the Eastern traditions are really good at beginning to demonstrate this. Okay. And so when you stop thought, light begins to emerge. The physical structure and space of material reality begins to slowly become unfocused, then it begins to dissolve, and then you're starting to perceive the astral world overlaid on the material. And then once you go beyond that, you are now entering into the causal realm, and then you begin to just go into eternity directly. And so this is the reason why it's light is because light is the manifestation of your awareness. And when you meditate and you stop thought, you are allowing more awareness, a higher frequency of meditation to
Oh
actually
shit.
exist. Okay.
Mhm.
And so right now, all your attention is trapped, is entangled in creating this external perception of experience, right?
Mhm.
And when you begin to withdraw that awareness back into yourself, when you begin to slow down the mind and the narrative of your story, you begin to expand your awareness outward. Okay. And when that happens, your awareness begins to manifest visually as light. And you're able to do a lot of really cool stuff there. But there's first your desires begin to manifest at different colors of light, and then you ultimately go beyond that, and then you get to perceive different states of awareness at a higher gradation, and then you start to get the bliss, you start to get the energy, the prana in the body becomes enhanced, the kundalini begins to rise, and that's because your awareness is being focused inward on your spirit, on your actual mechanic of awareness directly. And so that is the path that I take. That's the path that I was taught. That's what I teach. That's what I do, is this open-eyed transmission-based practice where we actually begin to experience non-physical reality directly.
Wow. Sign me
Wow.
up, man.
Yeah. So
Sounds
in
awesome.
these experiences, I mean, you hear about people, going out to the desert and experiencing CE5, right? Like the whole Stephen Greer thing. And some people are getting pictures and still
I have no
frames
idea
and
what that is. I have like no clue what that is at
oh,
all.
really? Yeah,
Yeah, zero.
it's like a meditation technique where people go out with the intention to be able to see non-human intelligence, whatever that may be, right?
Okay. All right.
And they get these still frame images of what seems to be like some sort of being that is around them. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
talking about like right up in their grill. They can't necessarily see them all the time because they're trying to be in that meditative state, but what happens is that they'll get the still frames and they see that there's a face and there's a whole outline of a
totally.
body
Yep.
and just wild things. What do you think is actually going on there?
Well, one, I don't know Stephen Greer and I don't really know the practice of this meditation, but from what you're explaining to me, what's happening here is that they are starting to perceive the astral world directly, okay? And and when I say that, the astral, we need to first look at the architecture of material reality, right? So if what is manifested here is the most dense manifestation. And then we have the etheric world, which is this like webbing that connects the astral and the physical together. And then you have the astral plane, which is where the potential of the manifested reality occurs. And the astral world is where you perform magic, because when you alter the energies and the elemental plays, and there's enough energy behind it, that begins to manifest through time and space into material reality. And so all the shamans, the mystics, the medicine people of the world, they all trained themselves to see, to actually see what is beyond the physical. Okay, and this is where this is something that it's this is the borderline between, what makes the schizophrenic go crazy and where the mystic, swims and excels, right? Is this ability to discern, to actually see directly and not just let their mind make up the experience for it. And so, like when I go out into nature and I sit there and I meditate with my eyes open, yeah, I'll be able to see the energies of nature and the plants, and maybe there'll be a nature spirit that will reveal itself, and this is things that mystics of all sorts have done throughout time and history and memoriam, has been able to go out and cultivate this relationship with the spirits that have been here long before humanity was, right? And personally, it is of my own experience and belief that the the way that humans actually learned these different abilities is directly from these nature spirits directly. I believe that there's a symbiotic relationship between the non-physical beings that have been here, which are a part of nature, that manifest as physical elements of nature, and the first humans. They started to develop a symbiotic relationship, and this is where you get these different rituals and practices, because personally I believe that when humans started to develop these early stage of rituals, that it wasn't just, because they were bored and wanted to dance and stuff like that. It's because there was an exchange going on. One mode of belief is that they would do these rituals and that it would help the cycles of nature and time, flip into the next season. And then there's another thought where, they would do these rituals and that would allow these nature spirits to actually incarnate as humans and continue their evolutionary trajectory, right? And
Whoa.
so there's this, I believe that there's a really big symbiotic relationship between the spirits of earth and nature, and how humans got this knowledge, right? It's like and if you just study it, all the indigenous cultures, whether it's from Europe, and you have the Celtics and their traditions where it's very much involved with nature. It's like, well, who taught them, or who taught the indigenous here in the Americas how to know what plants were used for what? You know,
Dude, I know.
it
And
it's
shout
the
out to the
spirits.
druids, by the way.
Yeah, it's the spirits, and so this is just, we're just kind of at this point where we're really starting to remember that the evolution of humanity is not purely based in consumerism and material and technology,
Yeah.
but there's this relationship with this waking world all around us.
It does seem kind of like we're at the cusp of either we're going to remember what we are and what we're capable of and where our potential future could lie by, turning inward and really trying to connect with the different energies and really learning what it means to be I am, or it's just going to be projected outward. And just recently, I was looking at a Northrop Grumman website, which is it's military industrial complex kind of stuff, and they were talking about these certain modalities about how people can communicate like telekinetically, right?
Right.
And you hear a lot of these kind of stories, especially amongst people that have autism and stuff like that, right?
Sure.
And they said, well, there's not really a good way to prove it, and it's kind of shaky. But if you just wait a couple more years, what we can do is that we have this device, and all we're going to do is just remove a tiny little section of your skull, and we'll implant a chip. And everybody that has that, you'll be able to have telekinesis, and you'll be able to communicate through mind. And I'm like, dude, we already have that ability. We don't need technology for that. That it's a learned process. And I think that,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, people were convinced that that's make believe and that's not real. And if it is real, then it's evil. And I'm like, I don't think so, dude. Like, if it's something
Yeah.
that is literally naturally inherent to the human body, it's like, why do we have DMT inside of us, in the pineal gland? Why do we have cannabinoid receptors in the mind? It's like we evolved with these things. And
Right.
I mean, whether you believe in evolution or aliens came and capped the telomeres or whatever the case may be, but I'm just saying, like,
Why do they have to be separate? Why do they have to be separate things? Why can't they just be both?
it's just
You know?
consciousness. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, what if, there's you look at all the Native American origin stories, right? And they say that the Native Americans say that they come from the stars. Okay. Now, there's two ways that I've been able to decipher that, is either they just, something brought them here and said, this is your planet now, you know, evolve.
Right.
Mhm.
or or it was that there was just this yeah, I mean, I think that's actually the main one, is like, is they say that they just appeared here, so maybe they walked through a portal and came from another world, and then there was an amnesia type event, or maybe something brought them here, and they just began to cultivate their own life.
Right. Like
But
the Hopi and the Blue Star Kachina and whatnot.
yeah, exactly. And so, like, one of the Lakota medicine man that I work with, named David Swallow, I was with him this summer for the summer solstice, and he was walking me through what the old rituals of the solstice were, and if you look, the Lakota people, their entire, cycle of life hundreds of years ago was they were a nomadic people, and they would go to these different places on the earth and do these different rituals at different points in time, because that was their purpose as that group of people, was to help move things forward, right? And so he told me how, you guys know Devil's Tower
Oh
out
yeah.
in
Yeah.
right?
The knot tree.
Yeah, the knot tree, exactly. So, he straight up was like, yeah, it's a tree, and so he's like, on the backside, there's these holes, and they used to climb up, they used to put pegs and climb all the way up it, and then they would vision quest on top of this tree, on top of the stump. And and if you go up there, apparently there's these holes, you know, there's these like very interesting arrangement of holes, and they would essentially at the exact moment of the summer solstice, you know, that a portal or a doorway or a dimension would open. Okay. And so, you know, there's a lot of mythology and story around that, you know. But, you know, I think it really points to the fact that, you know, humans have had humans have had contact with physical and non-physical beings for a very, very, very long time. You know, it's in
Mhm.
every single origin. It's almost in every single tradition and culture and story that this existed. And you know, he later told me he was like, we didn't really need to talk back in the day. Everybody was just telepathic with each other. And then he's like, how do you think we learned to talk? And I was like, I have no idea. And he's like, the birds. And I was like, ah,
Oh wow.
that makes sense. You know, like, you know, thousands and thousands of years ago, we hear the birds singing and speaking to each other, and then they
Mhm.
observe them through moving air through them. And then, you know, humans learn to talk, but as a result, lost the ability to be
I
telepathic.
I wonder why they would even transition into talking if they were already communicating through the mind, you know, unless it was to communicate with other people, and maybe their language was different, so they had to figure out a bridge in order to make that communication. I don't know.
Well, I think it's you know, look at what happened. Like, why is there so much singing in all these traditions, right?
Mhm.
Because there's a song. Song is the use of sound, and sound alters an environment. It alters the energetic construct of the area, and so
Mhm.
you know you can use sound as a tool. Sound is a type of magic, and
Mhm.
so you know when you like that's why there's medicine songs like in these different medicine traditions they sing these songs and things happen, whether it's the Icaros of South America with the ayahuasca traditions, and you know, and they say that these sounds or that these songs were given to them by the plants, right?
Mhm.
And you know, and you know, I work in the peyote tradition, and when I first started my pilgrimage out to the desert, which is the birthplace of peyote, I started to hear these sounds out there. And I asked my teacher, I asked him, I was like, does your indigenous language come from the medicine? And he's like, exactly. He's like, our language is rooted in the language of the medicine. And
Wow.
it was just because in the sounds that I was hearing were so nobody was singing or talking, but with the sounds I was hearing was similar to the syllables and the words of their culture. And so um, you know, sound is a very potent, it's a way that we create the world. We create
Right.
reality.
Yeah,
That's
sound frequency.
fascinating. There
Yeah,
was this
dude.
thing that I heard, and who knows if it's true. Like, I question everything, you know, even if it seems reasonable, or the source is reliable, I still question it. But there was this thing that I was watching, and they said that, you know, when the Native Americans, you know, depending on what tribe or whatever, they do like a rain dance, right? And they do that in hopes to try to bring the rain. But there was this
Yeah,
thing that they were looking into, the frequency that is made through their dance and chanting and drumming is actually the frequency of rain itself.
right.
Damn.
And so it's like
Yep.
they're channeling the energy itself of rain.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So that's just a trip. And that just made me think of that when you were talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the truth. Like
Wow.
that's real.
Holy
Those
shit, dude.
those things happen, you
Things like
know?
this just make me go like, what? Where are we? What is this place? You know, like what's
Yeah.
going on?
My uncle in the peyote tradition once told me, he's like, we expect miracles around this fireplace, which just means to say that the more you unlearn and the more you begin to experience and you learn, you just begin to see that miracles and magic is just the natural way of life. You
Right.
know, it's like the alchemists look to understand nature. This is the classical advice for the alchemist is to follow nature, right? To
Mhm.
seek nature, because in the alchemical operations in a lab, you are creating a microcosm of the macrocosmic natural cycles
Mhm.
of creation.
Right.
And so, you know, This
Wow.
is this is why alchemy is you can find alchemy at the center of any tradition, is because they all follow the same formula. And some traditions have specialized in a specific aspect of the formulas.
Wow.
Dude, and you know
Wow.
what's it seems so counterintuitive to unlearn something in order to experience something. You know, like there's
Sure.
one of my favorite movies of all time is Ready Player One. I mean, it's a bit,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that
It's
fucking
great.
movie, right? But the
Yeah,
first key that he has to find, he's out on that racetrack, right? And
yeah.
everybody's zooming forward, and they have to get past this bridge that's breaking, and all these different obstacles, and he tries it and tries it and tries it and can't figure it out, and then he finally understands that in order to win the race, he has to go backwards. And I
Right.
was
Yeah.
like, oh, that
Mhm.
is spot on with what we're talking about right here, I think.
Wow.
It is. Our society, our culture is so focused in one direction on consumption
Physical.
and on the yeah, exactly. And so when we just begin to slow down and observe nature, it just becomes a lot easier to
Mhm.
really recognize what is real, what is
Mhm.
true for your being, how healing is a natural state of harmony, and how we live in a world that is so bombarded by being told what to think, what to want, what to buy, and then you
Mhm.
have like the chemical elements that are put in our food. So we're just in this constant state of disharmony and disruption. And if you look at these classical medical systems, you know, the Islamic medicine traditions, I'm trying to remember the exact umami, um, like or China, classical traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurveda. These are all about bringing the body, the mind, and the spirit into harmony. And when something is in harmony, there's no disease, there's no disease.
Mhm.
It's just a natural
Flow.
state of growth and recorrecting or realigning, to be in a functioning well.
Oh, dude, yeah, and that's something that I've talked about ad nauseum on the conspiracy show about how Western medicine it doesn't cure anything. You know, I mean, it's great to go into a hospital to fix your broken leg or if you need to get stitches or something like that. But as far as medicine goes, and that's something that really starting to pull away from even now, like more and more as the days go on, is the idea that there's this one medicine that you can take and it's going to make you feel better right now, but it has no effect on tomorrow. You know, I'm like, it's a band-aid is what it is.
Right.
And so yeah, I go all the way to the extreme with that. But yeah, dude, you mentioned peyote, and that's something that we haven't tried. Can you tell us maybe your difference of your experience between peyote and mushrooms even?
Yeah. The I am very blessed and fortunate to have encountered this plant and this medicine. It has been, I've been taking, started taking mushrooms when I was 18, and and was quite the psychonaut in my early mid 20s, and then at the end of my 20s, I was invited by an elder that I work with son to a ceremony, and it was a very small, intimate gathering in Mexico. It was, only about like 9, 10 people, and the medicine man who was running the ceremony, his family had been a carrier of this tradition for thousands of years, and most people think that peyote, uh, you know, come is uh, comes from some of the indigenous traditions here in the US, and it actually comes from Mexico. It comes from the indigenous traditions in Mexico. The Oaxaca people have had peyote for tens of thousands of years. They've found fossilized peyote at these altars,
Wow.
where all throughout the deserts in Mexico and central Mexico, and then obviously because like parts of southern southwest US used to be a part of Mexico, and then you had the gardens that grow into Texas, and the Native Americans here, the Native American tribes didn't receive that plant until like the 1850s or 60s or something to that extent. It wasn't,
Really?
it was, yeah, it's very recent. They've had it, less than 200 years, but, um, and, they received it from the indigenous in Mexico. And, the word peyote, or the Nahuatl word for peyote, translates to shimmering heart, or the shimmering heart medicine.
Oh, that's
Oh,
cool.
that's cool. Yeah.
And that's what that medicine does, is it heals the mind and the heart of the individual. And if you look at the traditions of the Huaraca people in Mexico, they are a very happy group of people. They have vibrant colors of their yarn work and their clothing, and they're a very communal based people. They don't have a lot of secrets from each other. It's just they have an entire tradition of healing and of happiness and of joy. And for me, that medicine is been very healing to my heart, to allow my heart to open in ways that I didn't know was possible, in ways to forgive people that have done things to me, to help me heal trauma that I've experienced in my life, to focus my mind in a way that is intentional and has brought, it's a very powerful medicine to the body. It's a very healing medicine for the physical body, but it's also a very energizing medicine as well. And so, it is very different from the mushroom, but it's there is some similarities. Uh, yeah, there's some similarities, but to me, the mushroom has always felt very cosmic, very alien, right? Like, I don't believe the mushroom comes from this planet. I think it comes from somewhere else. And one medicine man just said that that there's a spore cloud out in space, that these spores hitch rides on asteroids into these different planets, and that the mycelial consciousness of the mushroom being or entity spreads itself to these other planets, and then it takes root, and then that's how it learns about its macro, universal experience. And then you have like the stoned ape theory, where and that's what happens with these plants, is like, when you eat the mushroom or you eat peyote, you're experiencing its consciousness,
Yeah.
and it's experiencing your consciousness. So there is a feedback. There's a feedback. But what I personally believe is that the peyote does come from this planet. It comes from this earth.
Mm.
And that is what I think is so powerful for humans, is that it's connecting us back with the earth in such a natural way, and it's healing the things that have caused that dissonance, to not see us as a part of this ecosystem of the earth, right? And so if we look at, like, for example, your body is made up of billions of types of cells. You have bacteria, and you have organisms, and you have all these things existing in your body. But you are experiencing your life as just this one being based on this external experience,
Mhm.
right?
I see
But
where you're going.
okay, but you are the ecosystem of all these things happening inside of you. And what the peyote has done for me, helped do for me, is see me as a part of a small piece of this larger ecosystem called Earth. In the same way that you have bacteria in your stomach that helps you digest food, I believe that we are a part of this Earth in a similar fashion,
Right.
And so, um, we that I could go on for days about this medicine, but it's one that I believe everybody should experience in humanity. I know that's a controversial topic for different people and different perspectives, but I believe that peyote is the medicine of the heart, and it is the medicine for humanity, and it is what will help humanity evolve into its next evolutionary chapter of a unified people.
Dude, you are
Well,
the Terrence McKenna of peyote. I love it.
you've convinced me.
I
I
Yeah.
feel
am
like I need this now. You know?
I am not Terrence McKenna was a great man. I really love and respect this medicine, and that is part of my path is to learn to work with that medicine and to be of service to that medicine. And I claim no authority. I hold no right, no none of that. I encountered that medicine, and I was not even seeking it. It found me, and then several months later, I was invited to go to the desert where it's from, and that experience changed my entire life. And I firmly believe that that is my medicine. I believe that that is what helps me grow, heal, evolve, and to know myself and to know God and to become more unified and harmonious with the earth. But, I'm a baby in these ways and these traditions, and I'm still learning, as much as I can, whenever I can. But it's a beautiful medicine, and I hope everybody has the experience to try it at some point in their life within a ceremonial setting. Okay, and that's, I think, something that I do want to share is when you take these plant medicines in a I don't want to say in a recreational way. um it opens you up to different things, right? Like if you go take mushrooms and you go on a walk, it's going to be a different experience than if you take mushrooms and you're sitting in a dark room, right?
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
and for me, I have always found that one of the best ways to experience these plants is in a ceremonial setting with somebody who carries these traditions in their family or has been trained in these traditions. Um, because there's a reason why the ceremonies are done in certain ways. It's kind of a a process. It's an alchemical operation that's happening in these ceremonies, and things are done in those ways in the right way, and yeah, but it's a beautiful medicine, and it can do a lot of healing. The Matakamis, that's the Wet'suwet'en word for, that's what they call their medicine men or women, is Matakami. And it means one who is one with peyote, or one who works with peyote. Another translation is like one who sings for peyote or something like that. And they're healers. That's what a Matakami is a healer. They put themselves through training with this medicine. They make multiple years of pilgrimages to the desert, leaving offerings, learning to work with the medicine, and then the spirit of that ally merges with them, and so it's the peyote that begins to heal and or begins to work through them. And so, like my teacher in that tradition, he is a master healer. He'll start singing and chanting and praying in the middle of the ceremony, and then all of a sudden he'll point to someone, he'll say, "Hey, come here," stand in front of the fire, and then he'll start doing a healing on them, and he'll literally pull out of them like black sludge, or like sometimes they'll pull out stones from their body or things like that, just like this manifestation of a sickness, energetic or physical. And
Wow.
it's a beautiful tradition, man. Like, I have seen nothing but beauty and healing coming from that medicine.
Dude, and
Wow.
it's so weird that you even bring that up. I totally forgot that peyote is like the psychoactive ingredient in it is mescaline, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And that just brings me back to the Doors of Perception with Aldous Huxley,
Yep.
right? And I literally just earlier today, like not like I don't know, 2 hours ago, I watched this video of Aldous Huxley's wife saying about what Aldous Huxley went through in his final moments before death, because he was on the edge of death and they knew that he was about to die. And he goes, "Look, if I'm going out, I want to go out my way." He does LSD, right? Like as
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
dying. And this is the guy that, I mean, kind of turned a lot of, at least Western people on to mescaline, maybe peyote and kind of psychedelics. And I
Yeah.
mean, influenced John Morrison of the Doors, right? Like the major influence. And I just thought that was so interesting that,
Well,
you know, and people come to these crazy experiences
yeah.
through, you know, psychedelic things, and you're able to teach, and you're able to learn, you're able to experience, and you're able to share your experiences. And I just love that that's kind of like what you're doing. I mean, somebody would look at you and be like, oh man, he's just doing drugs, you know? And it's like, no, there's a lot of knowledge
Yeah.
that you can gain from all of this.
Yeah, it's the, you know, you look at the transformation that occurs, right? You look at the presence that somebody begins to emanate, right? And that's the result of the healing. That's a result of the expanded awareness, is when it becomes integrated into the person's being, into their spirit, into their way of life, to where they just become an emanation of that. And they just become, you know, they work in service for that force, right? And I wanted to actually share something, because I feel like it's very important to understand the history of these things, and how much these indigenous traditions and cultures and medicines have actually changed the world in a very unique way. Okay, so um, you guys know who Gordon Wasson is?
I don't.
I don't think
Okay,
so.
so Gordon Watson was a was the first one of the first he was the first American that went down, and he met Maria Sabina, and he tried the mushroom in the 50s. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, Americans didn't know what the mushroom was at this point in time. Okay. And so he went down, he was studying mushrooms and something else, and he was on this thing in Mexico. And, you know, he went down there, and he met Maria Sabina, and he sat in this mushroom ceremony with her. And he was like, oh my God, this is like life changing. Okay. And then he comes back and he talks about it in Time magazine, right? Now, what's really interesting, because he was the person that first brought that information back to the US and started writing about it in journals and things like that. Maria gave him uh, a mushroom, and he sent that to his friend, Albert Hoffman. And Albert Hoffman studied the spores on the mushroom, and he started to chemically break it down. And and the story goes that he was able to synthesize LSD through studying psilocybin.
Damn.
And then that begins the LSD revolution. And then you start to have, you know, the stories of like the Beatles and all these people going down to take mushrooms in Mexico, right?
Yep.
Now, um, uh, so we can see that this cultural revolution, that this paradigm of consciousness shifted as a result of Maria Sabina, who preserved her people's medicine tradition, right?
Wow.
She ate the mushroom when she was 8 years old.
Damn.
She was on this, she was walking, and she was hungry, and she ate the mushroom, and she was on a trip for several days. Okay. And you know, she got in trouble with her family. They said never do that again, and she went and ate it again. And then she
That
became
would
a
have been my answer.
right. And so she became the priestess. You know, she became the vessel for that plant. And when Americans started going down to see her, she was starting to get attacked by some of the other indigenous, you know, witches and healers and things like that, because they were like, don't show this to the Americans, because, you know, they'll come, they'll destroy it, this is our sacred tradition, yada yada. And she was like, no, this is the mushroom wants this, right? And so she actually, there's this famous quote where she said the mushroom is changing. And she said the mushroom is changing is because all these people want to eat the mushroom to know God, to talk to God. But the mushroom is not to talk to God. The mushroom is for healing. And this is what I think is really important, is that these plants have consciousness, and consciousness is malleable. So like when we bring an intention into something, then it changes, it catalyzes the experience. And so, you know, I feel like it's very important whenever we're engaging with, you know, these indigenous medicine traditions, to understand what they were originally used for and hold them with reverence and respect, while also realizing that the thing that's going to change our lives is not, are we going to know the truth? Are we going to talk to God? what's going to change our life is, are we going to be able to heal? Are we going to be able to open our hearts? Is our minds going to become free of external stimuli and conditioning? And so if we can begin to center into that idea that healing is what's actually going to bring about true change and transformation in the world, and not just get high and talk to God, well, the natural byproduct of healing is then integrating it into your daily life. And if you can,
100%.
right? And
Yeah.
if you can bring that healing into your life, and if you can change as an individual and you begin to make your world better, and then you begin to influence those around you, well, now you have the cascade effect. Because
Yes.
what is going to be more impactful to your local community? Some guy who's like, I took LSD, I know the truth,
I
man.
talked to God.
Right? I talked to
Yeah.
God, right? Or is it going to be like, hey, this way that I was living, it's not working for me anymore, and I want to live like this, and this is what I
Right.
believe to be the case, right? And so
Right.
I just feel that, and I'm only speaking this from my own perspective and experience, because I was once on that other side. I wanted to know, I wanted to talk to God. I ate the mushroom because I wanted to know truth, right? And this is just kind of this evolutionary track, I think, of beginning to explore consciousness, and learning to know the plants, and actually opening yourself up to healing. Because, I've met, you guys know what wooks are, right? You guys heard this word, wooks?
No, I haven't.
Wooks. Oh my goodness. Wooks are like, you guys ever go to like music festivals, like hippie music festivals and stuff like that?
I've never been.
Oh
It's
my God.
on the life list
It's on
though.
the list along
Yeah.
with
Okay.
peyote.
Okay.
Not at the same time.
Maybe.
So like wook, a wook is like a derogatory term for like a hardcore hippie who's just like super drugged out, right? They're,
Okay.
they like don't abide by any hippie principles. They're like, they're stealing people's stuff, and whatever, right? So it's because they typically have long dreadlocks and they're really dirty. And so wook comes from the word Wookie. And so it's just kind of this like,
Yeah.
so anyways, my point being is that, I've met a lot of wooks. I've met a lot of people who have done a ton of psychedelics, and there's no healing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Why?
Yeah.
Because there's a resistance. That's not what they wanted. They weren't open to it. They were just trying to get high. And so I really feel that if we can put our intention on healing and bringing ourselves into harmony, then that's actually how the medicines work through us,
Mhm.
and begin to actually make the world a better place. They can
It's
actually begin to bring that energy and that medicine to a larger population.
it's more
That's
than
great.
just an experiential kind of thing, and how are you going to
Exactly.
integrate it being the
There's a
point. Yeah.
purpose.
Exactly.
You know, and
Because we've done mushrooms several times, but I don't think I've ever just strictly set that intention. I was
Try
always
it.
just like, oh, let me have a cool experience. You know what I mean? This is
Yeah.
exciting. This is gonna be fun. But I've never said, you know what? I'm gonna focus on just healing.
Yeah.
But I definitely will.
Yeah,
Believe me.
carry, like, next time you guys go sit with the mushroom,
Mhm.
you know, ask ask it like, what do I need? What am I hiding from myself?
Mhm.
What do I need to heal? What is my purpose? Talk to it. It's a very alive thing. It is a very conscious thing. If you sit and you meditate with your medicine every day for a week before you take it, and you start to merge with that medicine, you will have a very bright and uplifting experience. And
Wow.
this is the symbiotic intelligence that is there. Is that, when they're dried up sitting in that plastic bag in your sock drawer or whatever, it's like, that is a living being right there. And
Mhm.
so we learn, this is part of what the medicine traditions and the indigenous traditions teach us, is that everything is alive, and that we are a part of this living, waking world. And if we can see all of these things, plants, animals, the elements, as our relatives, as a part of us, then we begin to awaken to the larger ecosystem of life, of consciousness, right? Because if we come to this point in our spiritual journey where we're like, all is one, man, but if we don't treat, the birds as as a different form or extension of us, if we don't treat the waters of the earth as living beings, then we're not actually believing what we say we're believing.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know, you had mentioned Hoffman earlier, and
Yeah.
actually our like favorite psychedelic of choice is Foreco, which is said that, you know, Hoffman was the one that was the first person to synthesize that. And shout out to Ashton for calling that out. Yeah, I thought that, and anybody that's ever tried, like, it's called 4-ACO DMT or 4-ACO DMT. And
We call it Foreco.
yeah, we call it Foreco, but yeah, it is. I personally can say that is I prefer it over mushrooms personally, because mushrooms, you know, you'll be tripping for 6, 7, 8 hours, you know?
Sure.
And this is a little bit shorter. It's like 3 hours. Plus I find that it is kind of like a perfect mixture of like mushrooms and DMT. It's like, because
Yeah.
I've tried both of them, and I would say this is the happy medium. It is the perfect little cocktail of both of them.
Yeah.
And can't suggest it enough. But yeah, I do want to get over back to the chat here, because we've been slacking on that. But all the way back to the very beginning, White Boy Wizard said, "Good evening, you glorious motherfuckers."
Good evening, my
Good
dude.
evening, White Boy Wizard.
Love you.
I love you, bud. Ashton said Kashmir Shivism.
Shivism.
Okay,
Yeah.
ties in a
that's-
lot to Western mysticism and Jungian psychology.
Well, where do you think they got it from? Kashmir Shivism is one of the oldest traditions of yoga, and so that has influenced that is like real tantric. That is real tantra. Kashmir Shivism is real tantra. It is real mystical yoga.
I gotta say, I haven't looked into that one yet. So there's
I'd
still
have to.
so much to learn. And I'm actually, every time you mentioned several things, and we're like, yeah, I'd never heard of that. And it just excites me, because there's so much more to learn, you know, and we're never going to sit here and act like we know everything, or act like, you know what I mean? It's
How could
like
you?
coming with the mentality of the child, you know, being very open-minded and not so strict, and just looking and learning from all the different philosophies and the perceptions of all the people that came before us and all the people that are around now that are here to, you know, share said experiences.
Yeah, dude. Some would say it's the way of the mystic. You know
Yeah.
what I
It's the
mean?
way of the mystic. Yeah. Ashton said, "I like automatic writing during a trance, because I never know what I actually wrote until it manifests as prophetic, or I've read it over and over again over a span of years, picking apart the layers."
Sure.
Nice.
Dude, automatic writing is awesome.
Yep.
He said, that makes a lot of sense. I always attributed my ability to meditate open-eyed to the rewiring of neurons in association with my psychedelic use in the past.
Yep. That is a neurochemical explanation for it.
Hell yeah. Benjamin said, "I love the fungi. I would love to try peyote, though." Same. Yeah, right there with you. White Boy Wizard said, "I need some peyote, mescaline, ayahuasca, and that ibogaine."
Not at the same time.
Yeah,
Or
don't
maybe.
do that.
No, definitely not at the same time.
Right. Ashton said, "I stopped taking psychedelics once I could have the experience without the substance."
There you go.
Yeah, dude.
Excuse me, what?
Yeah. And then Benjamin said, "I always felt a communication with my mushrooms. I feel like they are there when I need them, or they need me. They've definitely helped shape who I am today." 100%, dude. It's like a completely different world whenever you have an experience like that, and I love it. And then, of course, White Boy Wizard said, "Mystic AF, baby girl."
Come on, baby girl.
White Boy Wizard, I love it, dude. Yeah, dude. So, dude, you know what? I would love to hear about maybe some of your experiences. I saw that there was a video. I don't know. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but what really, you know, kind of pulled my attention in your direction was you were talking about how you went out to the desert, and there was like a shaman with a wand that was pointing to the stars and the moon and stuff. And I was like, what is going on? I want to hear about that if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah. So my path has kind of been an eclectic mix of self-study and then like several year stints of being like a hardcore study and dedication with a teacher of a specific, tradition or path, right? And uh my guru, you could say, the teacher that kind of really initiated me into like a meditation path and a traditional mystical path. I refer to him as S. I call him S. He he likes his privacy, and to rename, yeah, he just
For
likes his
sure.
privacy. So
Yeah.
I refer to him as S. And his ex-wife was actually the one who taught me this open-eyed meditation back in beginning of 2016. And I made a lot of friends in that, kind of circle and community. And then in 2017, they were all like, "Hey, S is starting to teach classes. Like, you got to come experience this, right?" And at this time, I was still kind of really young and didn't really know. I was 23, 24. I didn't really have a lot of cosmology for spirituality and enlightenment. I just knew whatever enlightenment was, I wanted that. I wanted to go in that direction.
Right.
And so my friends were like, they were like, yeah, he's really enlightened, and then I talked to his ex-wife, and she's like, yeah, no, he's classically, enlightened. And I'm like, I have no idea what that means, but let's go. So I went to one of his classes at the end of 2017, and he had this program, and so there was like 14, 15 people, and we would have class every single Sunday, and he would meditate with us, and he would bring us into very high states of awareness, and we'd get super high. And so um and what I liked about him was that he was all about his tagline was becoming self-realized while embracing life and society. And I was like, dang, this is the first spiritual teacher that I've heard of that is like actively promoting, building a business, living a good life, not making as much money as much or as little as you want to, being healthy and just all these things. Like, he had a very well-rounded approach. And so and so he was the one that really opened up this new world of like integrated awakening, of like integrated mysticism. And so he was a transmission based teacher. He would sit there and meditate with us, and we would go into very high states of light. um and then I remember he would take us on these desert journeys. And my friends had already been on like 6 or 7 with him, and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna love it. It's gonna be so cool." And I was like, I mean, yeah, I'm down. Like, let's,
Hmm.
hell yeah, why not? And so we went out into the desert, and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna give you like your Shakti pot tonight," and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I guess." And
Hmm.
we're walking through the desert. We probably walked like 3 miles through this canyon, 3 or 4 miles through this canyon, just one direction. And he's like, "Let's see if you guys, can sense and feel where we're gonna go." And we walked past the place that we're gonna go, and he's like, "Okay," and so he sent 2 of the people. He's like, "Why don't you guys go check over there?" And then he's like, "Okay, let's play with the stars a bit." And so, he just had his staff was just a walking stick. Like, it was just a walking stick that he got from Walmart. Like, it wasn't
Love
this,
it.
yeah, it wasn't this like, super decked out, blinged out, copper rod or anything like that. It's just super simple. And so, yeah, he is like, "Okay, focus on that star." And he starts, moving his staff around, his walking stick around, and the star just starts to move. It starts to dance. It's like literally, and it's not like it's like vibrating. It's
Wow.
like it's literally like moving.
Hmm.
And I just started busting up laughing with bliss and amazement and just
Yeah.
joy, because it was the moment that I witnessed magic. I
Mm.
witnessed miracles. It wasn't like a whoa, what was that? It was like I
Hmm.
am witnessing magic firsthand.
Hmm.
And there was no part of me that was like second guessing or plausible deniability or anything like that. It was just like, it's fucking happening.
Right. Hmm.
And And so I was just laughing because it's like, you know, all I wanted since I was a kid was magic, to experience miraculous activity.
Mhm.
And then he did it a couple more times with some different stars, you know, and every time we would go out into the desert, he would do something like that. He'd do something similar, you know, like there was this one time where like he would make a tree walk from like one ridge to one ridge. And so we would,
What?
you know,
Oh my God.
it's not like it was right in front of us.
Yeah.
It was probably, you know, several hundred meters away from us, like on this cliff ridge, but you could
Yeah.
clearly see it was a tree. And then so he's like, okay, meditate on the tree. And then all of a sudden, the silhouette of the tree just starts to,
What?
you know, and then it just starts to move. And it's like,
Mm.
you just see these like long shadow limbs just, you know, and, um, and so, you know, he was performing siddhas, you know, like in the
Mhm.
Eastern tradition, they'd call them siddhas, right? And this was just who he is, you know, who he was. Like he was a real enlightened being who had real mystical, magical ability. And you know, he he demonstrated these feats of power, these acts of power for two things. One is he was transmitting something to us. He was transmitting a nonverbal teaching to us in the moment. Okay. And this is what makes a real teacher. There's what they call the secret teachings or the whispered teachings, right? And it's because the real teachings that cause the alchemical transformation in the body are transmitted from
Mm.
consciousness to consciousness. It's a frequency, it's an energetic wavelength. That's a real teaching. And that begins to actually cause the transformational or the alchemical process in the student or the aspirant there. Okay. And so he would perform these feats of power to one, transmit something to us in the moment, and then two, he would do it to show us that reality is actually a very fluid thing, and that it's just like I said in the video, it's just our minds that make it fixed. And so this is what is so crucial for the mystic to understand, is that reality is not a fixed static thing. It is a fluid manifestation that is being generated from your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions. Like you are the antenna that is radiating the energy that the environment around you is responding to and manifesting, you know, as your life. And so you know, he would go out and he would give us different empowerments, and you know, we would work on different different, you know, he would open up different energy centers in the body so we could see what that really was like. And because uh you know, he was transferring us a great amount of energy and power, right? And the reason why the only, you know, we don't have power. Like nobody owns power. As a mystic, we borrow power.
Mhm.
We store and we cultivate energy in ourselves as a result of our practice, our discipline, our dedication. And that's how our awareness expands, is because we have more energy, and as a result, having more energy, we can become more aware. And when we become more aware, we experience consciousness, more consciousness, or
Right.
more greater depths of consciousness, right? And so the teacher, any real esoteric teacher, will amp up the students, because that's how they make rapid progress. That's how they make rapid development very quickly. And so he was just sharing what the energy and power that he cultivated as a result of his practice, and he was transmitting that to us so that we could grow and transform, and then ultimately one day carry on those teachings, you know, to other people. And that's how a lineage is actually established. A lineage is not established through scripture and books and written word. It is through verbal and nonverbal transmissions. And
Mhm.
that is what actually establishes a multi-dimensional spiritual lineage, because if it's a spiritual lineage, because it's not physical. The physical lineage is just the student who has learned and has transformed and has awakened to some extent and can pass those teachings on to other people through meditation, through you know, transmissions and things of that nature.
Dude,
Wow.
I'll tell you, and this is the reason why I believe that there were always oral traditions, right? Like the
Yes.
idea of
Yep.
writing anything down can always be misconstrued. It could always, you know, because you're not understanding the energy of the sentence that is on the page, and you know what I mean? And honestly, I think that that's kind of like the downfall to a lot of religions, and that's why there are, 5,000 different variations of,
Nobody can agree.
The Abrahamic religions and whatnot. It's like, you're going to get people that are like, clearly this is what it means. No, this is clearly what it means. And I'm like, see, this is the problem, because it was written down. You weren't told it. And, you weren't taught what it means. And I totally get what you're saying. I've learned from things on a page before, but I learned the most from experience.
Yep. Because here's the thing. When you learn something, when you think you learn something from hearing or reading, that is a intellectual learning, and that is of the mind. Okay, that is a mental thing. Real learning is what transforms your consciousness, and that is beyond the mind.
Right.
When we meditate, we go beyond the mind.
Yep.
And so the transmission is a consciousness to consciousness.
Damn.
And it plants itself in the subconscious, and then it begins to grow and change.
And then you just embody that.
Because it's who you are at that point.
Is
you are now.
Right.
You are the teaching at that point.
Right. Oh man,
dude. And White Boy Wizard just laid it out perfectly. He goes, "It's so mystical. I got a mystic chubby, baby girl. Taylor is crushing it. Experience is the best teacher. 100%, dude.
It's the only teacher.
Wow.
It's the only teacher.
You think about it. I mean, look, I can read about how to take apart an engine in a car, but I'm going to remember how to take that engine apart whenever I actually get my hands on it.
Yeah.
Totally.
And imagine all the mistakes you make. Say you put something on first and you were supposed to put it on second to last, and so then you have to take it all the way apart and then rebuild it. That's kind of this journey. We make all kinds of mistakes along the way.
Yep.
So
all sorts.
That's great, man.
There's something else I wanted to say. It's going to come back to me in a minute here, but
I'm sending it to you. There we go.
Yeah, it'll come back.
No worries.
It'll come back.
Yeah, dude. I love learning about this kind of stuff. It is so amazing, and it's been a little while since I've done a psychedelic trip, but it's coming. It's coming.
He's got
soon.
it back.
Oh,
I got it back.
Let's go.
Okay, look. So, like when we talk about transmission teachings being the true teaching, right? It's like, look at, and you mentioned it with the Abrahamic religions. Like you look at what Christianity is today. It's wildly different than what it was back in the first 1-2 centuries, right? Or even the 5th, 6th century. Like, look how much Christianity has changed in 1,000 years. You look at the different versions of the Bible from just 500 years ago, or 200 years ago, or 80 years ago, that have influenced what people believe Christianity to be today.
Yep.
Right. And this is where the fall of man, or the desires that man has for control, is because they change something so that it fits the narrative of whatever is convenient for them, right? And personally, like the big things for me with Christianity that was kind of like, well, hold on a minute, this doesn't really make a lot of sense here, is like when you start looking into like the different, like if Christianity is all supposed to be about the teachings of Jesus, right? Then why is the scripture not just the actual words and teachings of Jesus?
Why are we learning so much about Paul? That's my question.
That's the big thing for me. That was like the big thing, is like, well, if we're basing our entire modern understanding of religion and the church off of Paul, who didn't actually have any contact with Jesus or the apostles, and he just said, "Trust me, bro."
Yeah.
And and then you have the Roman Catholic Church that was like, "Nah, this guy had it, and we're gonna wipe out a bunch of the rest," right? So it's like you just see how much the actual teachings get lost there, and so the real thing is the transmission. And so this is why, like, I just encourage anybody who wants to study mysticism to go sit with real teachers. Go experience real teachers, and try them out. Baskin Robbins 31 flavors, you know, and you'll see like some of them can do some cool things, some of them can say a lot of really profound things, but like look at, are they actually making your life better? You know, is your life, are you becoming more clear-minded? Are you becoming more authentic to who you were as a child? Is your heart opening more and more? Like these are the things that I look for in a teacher.
And a lot like the unlearning does, like how much help unlearning does. I feel like shedding off, particular parts about who, what you believe the nature of this reality is, what you think about yourself, and are you doing it because you have to, or are you doing it because you want to, kind of thing. And then you start to really wonder, like, all right, well, am I doing this for the right reasons, or am I kind of just going through the motion and just to get through the day? And that was one thing majorly that for sure psychedelics helped in a way of helping me see, man, there's a lot of things that are kind of like, I don't know, some of the key aspects of my life that I was just like, man, I don't even enjoy most of it. Like, what am I doing? I got to change this up, because if I'm not enjoying my life for the most part, then people's experience with me is not going to be enjoyable either. Right?
Totally.
It's like, how can I, help somebody or influence somebody or spark some curiosity in somebody if the way that I'm, giving this transmission out is not vibing in the right way? Like there has to be a certain frequency that is emitted from everybody's mouth. And usually you can tell when somebody's been changed. You can tell whenever they've made changes in their life. And the beautiful part about it is that you can start to see that, like, that bloom and that blossom of that individual, it is evident without even seeing it. Totally. It's a beautiful thing. So yeah, that's my experience.
Love it.
Very well said, my dude.
Yeah. Ashton put, Tiggy Skibble skeptics, your third eye's fourth eye. Oh, God damn.
All right.
But yeah, man, I look, we could talk to you literally all night. I love this conversation, but we're not trying to keep you too long. But we do have a tarot reading. Sean,
yes, we do.
Did you pull that card out?
Yes, and I think it's very fascinating, just off of Taylor's story that he was saying earlier. But we got the Knight of Swords.
Interesting.
So, the knight is rushing into the desert, seemingly.
The Knight of Swords, and we're still learning how to read tarot, so we have a little cheat book here. So I like to read it, because sometimes they have like certain words that are like, oh my God, how did this line up? But anyway, the Knight of Swords, it says, the quest for truth pushes you forward at all costs, and you plow ahead without considering the consequences. Wow. So knights in the tarot are depicted on horseback, returning from a noble quest to present you with an elemental item that you requested. The Knight of Swords represents pure air and is depicted charging forward against the wind, brandishing his sword of truth. This knight moves quickly, with his laser focus trained on the prize that he seeks. The speed and aggressive body language suggest he is heading towards confrontation and drama, and there is no stopping him. Damn.
Wow.
So, but the key meaning to it are assertiveness and truth seeking. So then there's also a spiritual message attached to it. It says you've been getting caught up in the dramatic encounters and feeling defensive. Alternatively, you're exploring a new assertive side of your personality by pursuing a goal or idea with great focus and confidence. You can look forward to receiving news that you have been waiting on, and rest in the knowledge that you'll act accordingly.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
I kind of want to know Taylor's interpretation of that. You said you did tarot.
Yeah, a long time ago. I used to.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, totally. I read. I used to use the Rider-Waite deck, and I studied like classical tarot, and then like when I was studying Western magic, it's a big portion of like the Western magical traditions, and all those things. But yeah, it's like the swords. The sword represents air and in the mind, right? So anything that you get with the sword is like mental and intellectual in nature, right? And so the knight is you have knight, queen, king, right? And so the knight is that like youthful life force, that like ambition, but it's like it's not fully mature. It's not like the king and his like poised, rulership, and it's not the queen and her graceful, uh poised nature either. It's more of that like ambitious, young, uh you know driving force of putting something forward. And so, I think it's just really speaking to the energy that's present, that we've cultivated here tonight as a result of the conversations, of like really pursuing truth and pursuing understanding, what is real, what is true, what is actually real versus what is the mind making things up. And so I just, I felt that to be reminiscent of the energy that has been cultivated as a result of the conversations, and inherently actually reflective of the path that you guys are on with hosting this program and looking to explore as much as you can to see what is out there. And if you look, he's actually heading into the desert. Okay.
Mhm.
And so the desert is where all the transformations happen for these different, individuals, right? Like what you had Jesus and Muhammad, and you have the desert. The reason why the desert is so powerful is there's a couple things here I'll share and then I'll shut up. So the first is that the deserts are for the most part, um they used to be the bedrock of the oceans, right? Like the oceans, that they were like the bottom, like where I used to go, where my teacher used to train us, is like that. You can tell that used to be the bottom of the ocean because of the way that the canyons were carved, and you could find old fossils out there and things like that, so you knew at one point that used to be the desert. So there's a lot of power there as a
Mm.
result of that. Number two is that the desert, it doesn't have a lot, there's no humans out there. So
Mhm.
it's barren.
Seclusion.
Yeah, it's just spirit, right? And
Right.
so there's not any mental interference, right? So like when you go into a city and you're like, wow, there's a ton of people around, like a city fortifies a view of the world, right?
Mhm.
And and then when you go out into nature where there's not a lot of people, it's a different vibe.
Oh yeah.
You feel different. But you go to the desert, it's just raw power,
Right.
like raw power. And so, that's, if you really want to learn and you really want to, yeah, if you really want to learn, you go out into seclusion. And the desert, there's a lot of magic out in every desert. And so if you just go out there and by yourself, or camp for a night or two, you'll experience it. You'll be exposed to something out there. And the deserts are the the deserts are where the dreams of the cities are formed.
Damn.
They are the inverse of the city.
Mm-hmm.
It's the opposite, right? So if you want to make change in your life, go to the desert and pray, and then go back to your life.
Well, Sean,
go.
look, we both live in Arizona. There's a lot of desert out here,
No
dude. So
excuses,
we're gonna have
dude.
to take
Just take a drive, right?
just down the
What
road.
part
man.
what part of Arizona?
I'm in Phoenix.
Oh,
And,
cool.
And I'm in Lake Havasu.
Oh, nice. My I've got family in Phoenix. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, look, absolutely love this conversation. Oh, White Boy Wizard has his hand up. What you got there, sir?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to see how far is that from like that crazy beautiful like Sedona and all the supposed energy vortexes and all the crazy hikes. We need to go spend time
Oh,
there.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll definitely make a trip at some point. It's only a few hours, I think.
2
Dude,
hours from Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah, not very far at all.
Hell
And I'm
yeah.
only 3 hours, like in Lake Havasu, I'm only 3 hours from Phoenix. So,
Yeah.
but, dude, we've been talking about this for forever, that we're eventually all going to go to Sedona sometime, and it would be so awesome. But yeah, whether it's
Fuck yeah.
Sedona or the middle of the desert, and
Forever.
you know what I mean? Like old Route 66 that nobody takes anymore, some shit like that, But yeah, I think that would be so amazing to get everybody together and go out there and
Definitely.
experience the power, dude.
Oh, yeah.
But Taylor, look, man, I love this conversation. I hope
Me
that
too.
we can do it again and we can learn
Yeah,
as much as
totally.
we possibly can from you, because I was totally fine just sitting back and soaking it up like a sponge, brother. Like, I love learning about this kind of stuff, especially somebody who's had firsthand experiences like yourself. So we really appreciate your time and the knowledge you bestowed upon us.
I'm going to be honest, I can talk to you for another few hours. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, I know you got things to do, you know.
I could talk for another few hours, but at some point, my throat is gonna dry up and I'll need to retreat for the night. But
for sure.
Eventually the trip ends, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So, well, this has been awesome. I appreciate you guys having me on. This has been a good conversation. I've appreciated you guys giving me a space to share my stories. I think what you guys are doing is real cool, and I'm looking forward to the next time, okay?
Absolutely.
Well,
as soon as you want to come back, dude, you
nice.
just say something.
Just set us up, dude. If you would, could you let people, our listeners and everybody out there, know where they can find you and kind of follow you on your journey, sir?
Yeah, totally. You can, most active is on Instagram. So just Taylor.Doretti. My YouTube channel is also TaylorDoretti. I do a podcast as well. And but I post content on Instagram every single day. This is really what I do. I'm a full-time coach and consultant. And so I really help people integrate awakening into their daily life. And, I've been an internet entrepreneur since my early 20s. So I do some business consulting for, internet-based brands and companies as well. So yeah, come check out my world. It's a fun, bright, beautiful place out there filled with mystical, attention, magic, and miracles every single day. So I'll see you guys on the flip side. Yeah.
All right,
awesome,
brother.
Man.
We'll see you next time then.
Thank you so much, man.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
See you, buddy. Man, what a conversation. My God,
dude. What a stud.
So awesome.
Dude, the amount of knowledge and understanding that guy had was just impeccable.
Dude, I'm saying, even White Boy Wizard's like, bring this boy back again.
Tomorrow if we can. I would have him back again later tonight.
Right
actually.
now. Let's actually just send another invite.
Just send him an email real quick.
And that's why I love, people like that. We can do our own research, and I love doing our own research and really, understanding the different mindsets and philosophies and spiritualities and, stuff like that. But God, I just love learning from people that have done it. There is something special about that.
I imagine having him on like a year and a half ago or something like that. We would have had such different questions, and it would have just not went as good as it did, dude. That guy was awesome, and I could literally could have just sat here and talked to him and just really just listened,
dude,
so much longer.
That was Ronnie Pontiac level right there, dude.
Oh, dude, yeah, one of my favorites for sure,
100%.
Easily.
Well, yeah, look, I guess we're going to get over to the meditation. I did want to say, if you guys could, please go and give us a follow on Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that. It really helps out the algorithm. Every like, every follow, every share, all of that stuff really helps this channel grow. We would like to try and get a hold of other people, and learn from as many people as we possibly can. And that happens through growth, and that happens, thankfully through you guys. So we just want to say thank you guys so much for interacting over there on the social medias. And also thank you for leaving the reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and everything like that. That also helps the algorithm. So just want to express a little gratitude. We really appreciate you guys helping us along this journey. But yeah, I guess we're going to get over to that meditation, and I don't know what kind of meditation we're going to do, but I'm sure it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm ready.
So yeah, I guess we'll get over to that. But yeah, dude, TaylorDoretti, your final thoughts on him, sir?
He's the man. He's the man, and I want to have him back as often. I want to send him an invite to every live going forward. Not that he has the time for us like that, but just saying.
If I ever get married again, I want him to hand me off to my wife.
There it is.
Just want to throw that out there. He seems like that kind of guy.
There you go. Yes, rightfully so, man.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess with that being said, if TaylorDoretti came here and he taught you anything, it's that you don't know what you don't know. So don't just get weird.
Stay weird.
Man, what a trip that was, huh?
What did that sound like on your end? I'm wondering if it sounded different for you than it did to us, or is that just how it sounded?
That's
or...
how it sounded. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's not like a normal type of
Right.
it was like
Yeah.
but it was like
right. Okay. Yeah, that was definitely a very different one.
oh, Ashton
Very
said it
different.
sounded like a come up. Yeah, that was very different. Yeah. Which I kind of expected it to be. And then even towards the end, like the last like minute or two, I thought, well, he was talking about like open-eyed meditation. So I was like, let me try an open-eye meditation just while we were looking at, you know, the picture on the video.
Yeah.
And dude, I get it. You know,
Something to
like,
it.
well, especially when you're looking at something trippy like that. Like I imagine that it's probably equally as trippy if you're looking at like a Mandelbrot set or some kind of solfeggio thing or whatever. You know what I mean?
Or even just nature. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, no, it was very different, which is fine. I'm totally okay with the ones that we haven't heard before that are very unusual. Like I'm usually a fan of the ones that are super unusual, just because I think it takes you out of the that part of what's familiar. It really just kind of throws a wrench in the gears, and so it almost for me like I was still having thoughts during that, but not as many as usual, and I think that's probably a good part of that. A good purpose of hearing something so strange that it kind of just throws you off your mental game, your thoughts.
Yeah.
So
It's a disruptor.
yeah, for a minute I felt like it was like kind of flickering, and I was thinking, oh, maybe it's because of my LED lights, but it doesn't always. It never does that. So
Yeah.
just something with the light. It was just kind of flickering.
Yeah, and I
So-
have my Zoom set up to where now whenever I share the sound and I share the screen and everything, whatever you hear is what I hear.
Right. Yeah, I was almost thinking like, I wonder if he's getting a better representation of what this sounds like than we are. Like almost like they put some sort of encryption so that if you are trying to share it, like share your screen, that people aren't going to hear it or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's what I'm starting to think. But I was like, but then again, it's changing and it's almost intentional. Like if they were to do something like that, it would just be consistent, like white noise or something.
right. And dude, what was really strange too, and I don't know if anybody else noticed it, but I kept on thinking that there was like somebody walking.
Oh,
You
right.
know, like I kept on hearing like footsteps almost.
Yeah, I was thinking of a horse galloping.
Maybe
And
that
then I was
that
thinking
could
of
have been it.
I was thinking of the tarot card, as far as like because the horse is like galloping into the desert, and so I kind of just let my mind go there because that's what it naturally wanted to do.
Wow.
So didn't really have any kind of crazy hallucinations or anything like that, but it was definitely interesting to say the least.
Yeah, super weird. Ashton said, "Jonathan, I got the message to tell you because you always talk about the Marvel movie Eternals. Great movie, by the way. How it is somewhat of a sloppy retelling of the Enuma Elish. I'm going to look for parallels, but the idea came as like Tiamat and Tiamat. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'd love to hear about it. Said it sounded like a come up, the meditation there. I just kept painting. Oh, that's interesting to paint while you're, listening to meditation music. I'm sure it helps.
Yeah. Get into that flow state, man.
Dude, Sean, whenever I come out there and you give me a tattoo, we're just going to be listening to 432 all day.
Oh, yeah. And you're like, this isn't what I wanted at all. It's like, this is what you get, though. I was in the flow state.
It's what came to me.
Something very meditative, though, about painting. Like anything that you do that's creative and you're just anything that you can get into that flow state is just that's a meditation in itself, because you're not thinking about anything else outside. You're not thinking about, your job or whatever else. You're just focused in on trying to make that part the way you want it to look. And then you forget about everything else. So, yeah, you were still meditating.
Right. Yeah, it's still a meditative kind of trance. Britt said that one made my whole body tingle and shiver. I liked it though.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that was I almost felt like it was like a brain massage.
That was my very first thought. That's so funny.
Yeah, like you ever have like those like in the mall, you sit in those massage chairs with the little balls in the back and it fucking hurts.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like on my head.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that was cool though. All right. Well, you know what? Like the whole time I kept on thinking like, man, he kind of looks familiar, you know? And I was like,
Mm.
I feel like he kind of looked like me a little bit. And
He's your replacement.
dude, and then he said my outro. He was like, I'll see you on the flip side. I'm like, what is going
shit,
on here? You
dude.
know?
Some parallel reality shit, man. That's
don't
your
know.
ascended version. you know?
Yeah.
The
Much
version
more.
of the version of you that didn't wait until 4 years ago to really look into, what it takes to waking
Dude,
up,
he was
he was talking
tripping.
about like when he was 22, 23, he was doing this and that. And I'm like, I was asleep
Dude.
at 23,
Dude, his first mushroom trip was
Completely.
18. I didn't
Yeah.
try mushrooms until I think I was like 20. I didn't have a full on, like I've tried, in smaller doses, but I would only just see like the colors, and it was never like a I'm one with everything kind of experience,
everything
because it
is
was always
one.
just a like maybe 1 or 2 caps,
Yeah.
I didn't have a full on immersive mushroom experience until, dude, I was like 28, 29, something like
right.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, like, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm a little late to the game. It's whatever.
Might have even been
Better late
after
than
that.
never, I think, though.
Yeah, because now I think about it, I think that I didn't try it. Like I didn't fully immerse into it. I was already podcasting, and I started podcasting when I was 30.
Right.
So it had to have been after that then.
Yeah. So imagine how much further you would be if you started when you were 18.
Better late than never. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly.
Ashton said, I started psychedelics at 17 and stopped at 19. I'm 25 now.
Still got
Interesting.
time.
Yeah.
No.
I still look forward to a psychedelic trip. Like I think, and everybody's different, like there's everybody's experience is always going to be different. I've had awesome experiences and I've had horrible experiences.
Yeah.
But those horrible experiences are ultimately what you learn the most about yourself from, I think. So
Yeah.
there's still
if
great
you think about
teachers.
it, though, everybody's in a different stage of their journey, So who's to say for someone that they need to or they don't or they shouldn't? It's like we're all on such very different paths, So
Yeah.
to each their own.
Yeah, Britt said, it's crazy to me, the people that are deep into spirituality at 18. I'm like,
Right?
how?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's
Makes
the
no
name
sense to
that
me.
makes the organite?
Makes the yes.
Damn, I can't remember his name now.
Yeah, I thought about him not too long ago.
Me
actually.
too. Yeah.
Fuck. Isaac.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude, he's so young and
early 20s.
I was
dropping
like,
knowledge.
I'm so jealous that you got to start that early.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
all
man.
I cared about at that age was nothing important,
Mhm.
Yeah,
but
It's
I
just-
think that that's a sign for good things to come. These
Yeah.
younger generations are really trying to understand some of this hidden knowledge and really try to understand just the reality around us and the fact that probably everybody's right about their own reality and to each their own. No need to try to force anything.
Dude, my kids turn 18. I'm tripping with them. Like,
yeah.
I'm like 18. I mean, people, dude. I mean, people are like. I remember my first beer. I was like 14. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And that was with my dad.
Right.
Actually, it wasn't even a first beer. I got shit faced in Germany whenever I was 14 because there's no drinking age over
If you're
there.
in Germany. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
drinking
mean, go for
fucking
broke. Right?
Hefeweizens and everything
I actually
was
think
like
you have to. I think it's a rule or something.
Yeah, Hefeweizens and a lot of pork.
Right.
But yeah, dude, and over there's no drinking age. And my dad was like, well, I mean, you can drink as much as you want. And I'm 14. I can drink 2 beers and I'm blacked out.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think my kids when they turn 18 need to be
if they're asking, you know what I mean?
I'll suggest it. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not gonna make anybody do anything they don't want to do.
Right.
But yeah, I love the people that really get connected at that early age like that. Of course, I would never introduce it. Like, I think that it has to be a thing that's after high school, because you have to get your good bearings. You have to understand what, at least what the world is trying to convince you of the illusion first in order for you to break through that.
Right. Exactly. I would say even a little bit later, just, to allow your brain to, I don't know the full, physical
early 20s or
understanding of the
something.
brain development and all of this. And so, whatever that age is.
Yeah.
I would
Maybe
say.
it's the 21 age,
Right.
I mean, I'd be okay with that too, but yeah, I think that it's extremely beneficial, and the people that get the messages and the information from that other side, that's no joke, dude.
No, they ain't playing around, man.
Yeah. Ashton said that's what I did. I just wanted to graduate before I fried my brain.
Good move.
Yeah,
the way to
for
go.
sure. All right. Well, damn. This was another memorable one. Dude, 2 straight
dude.
banger guests. I love this.
Yes, let's keep them going, dude. Keep them coming.
It's it's gonna keep on happening. I'm trying to reach out at anytime I see somebody that I'm just like I can't stop watching their content on TikTok or Instagram or whatever.
That's the next guest.
I'm like, come on down.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
there's something to learn. So
That's right.
yeah, dude. Well, I guess you know what? I think it's probably about time we get Lord Byron back too.
Yeah.
It's been a little
Yeah.
long, so maybe that'll be soon.
How long has it been? I feel like it has been a minute, huh? He's probably mad at us.
Dude, at least 3 months.
Oh no, that's
Yeah.
too long. Yeah,
Too long.
we'll get him. We'll get
What
him.
do you think about getting him for the live?
Sure. Yeah,
Let's
that'd be
do it.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lord Byron on a live is always fun.
Way too long.
Yeah. We'll make that happen. Ashton said I just binged every Byron episode. It's binge worthy.
He's so funny, man.
He's
He
a
cracks
character.
me up, man. Oh yeah, he's great.
Oh, dude. And the jester, like it
Perfect.
perfectly embodies him. Like,
Perfect.
if I
Yes.
was to ever see a DMT elf, I would expect him to have Lord Byron's face
and voice,
and
even
voice.
everything. He just throws you into a meditation, a guided meditation. You know.
Oh, and Britt said, and it's close to Halloween. That is perfect. Yeah.
Yes.
Because he was
Let's do
always
it.
talking about, Walpurgis Knot and everything. Halloween's another one of those.
Yep. Oh, absolutely, for sure.
Yeah. All right. It's sold. Good.
Yep.
Good thinking, Britt. I love that. Ashton, what are your thoughts, sir?
Have you guys gotten a radionics box or from him yet?
I
Have
keep on meaning to. I really want to. But it's I don't know.
Yeah,
There's a
same
lot
here.
of shit that I want to buy,
Like once I get a place, I was probably gonna look into one. But if he's on a live one of these days, I would try to ask him some questions because I'm still curious. Like, dude, how do you use that thing? I was looking at him like 9 dials, 4 dials, vampire box,
There's
Yeah.
crystals
wishing
in
box.
there. There's all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd like
it
to
all
know
goes
more.
well. We'll try to get him this next live. Actually,
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for a good show, guys.
of course,
night.
man. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for joining, dude. Yeah, all right, it's confirmed. Byron's coming. And if he
Yep.
has something to do, no, he doesn't, because he's coming. All right. Britt said it would be nice if he could demonstrate the box live. Good
Oh, yeah.
idea. Yeah.
That would be cool. That maybe we'll do that in place of the meditation. Even who knows?
I mean,
I don't know. I don't really want to get rid of the meditation though. Maybe after the meditation.
Well, no, I mean, he's going to probably guide us through a meditation.
Oh, that's
You
right.
know?
That's right.
So
okay.
just get it all,
We'll make it
all
work.
inclusive. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's how he made our servitors, was by using the box and then,
Yeah.
applying the Sun Tarot card and everything in
Embodying
there.
Marv, dude.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, I got to find Marv. I lost him.
Yeah. Well, we
Maybe.
need to maybe incorporate Marv within our logo.
I was thinking that same exact thing.
You know what I mean?
I'm
Maybe
gonna-
just have the tentacles like coming out or something like that. You know what I mean? He's there. We know he's there.
You know
but-
what I was thinking? Maybe have us like we are in that new logo, but
Mhm.
back on top of the van with Marv driving.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Yep.
think that's the move.
Do it.
Hell
Yep.
yeah.
All right.
All right. Damn, I love this.
This is fun, man.
But all right, yeah, we're gonna boogie up out of here, and we will see y'all next Wednesday.
Bye, guys.